I'm a student from Albania and engaged in child rights activism since I was 12, and I will have the great pleasure of being the moderator of this webinar. Before we start, and to ensure that everyone can understand what I'm saying, I want to bring your attention to the fact that there is a simultaneous interpretation available in French, Spanish, and Arabic. Please check instructions in the chat box and you will see a globe on the screen where you can choose your preferred language. And I hope that you are all able to hear what I'm saying in your preferred language now. In case there is any sort of problem, please let us know through the chat box. Please note that the session today is also being recorded and that recording will be shared with participants afterwards, along with other resources that we will also mention today. We invite you to type your name and organization and where you come from in the chat box down below and use the chat box to ask questions and share your experience. If you are an adult, please connect your camera when speaking. Otherwise, please stay on mute and turn off the camera. And if you're a child, on the other hand, you're just free to do whatever you want if you choose if you want your camera on or not when speaking. Also, before we start, and since we want this webinar to be a safe space for everyone, and especially the children joining us today, I will invite Leire from Child's Rights Connect to guide us in some of our safeguarding considerations. She is our child safeguarding focal point for this webinar. Leire, the floor is to you.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. I wanted to remind some safeguarding measures since our aim for this event is to be a safe and inclusive environment free from any form of discrimination, exploitation, abuse, or harassment. Please listen to and respect the opinions, ideas, and experiences of others, including taking participating children seriously and refrain from inappropriate language. We request that you don't exchange contact information with the children participating in this event and do not take photos, screenshots during this online event. Any safeguarding concern can be directed to me. Please treat others with respect during the webinar. Our child safeguarding policy and code of conduct applies in this event. And as a safeguarding measure in this event, we have disabled private messaging. Thank you so much.
So I guess we can start again. Welcome everyone. This peer exchange webinar on climate and environment action with children using the UN human rights monitoring and reporting mechanisms is organized under the framework of How to Child Rights series by child-led groups Voice 16+ from Albania, Save the Children, Child Rights Connect, UPR Info, Plan International, World Vision, as well as civil society organizations, including child-led organizations involved in the Save the Children CEDA-funded Civil Society Strengthening Program, including, but not limited to, Forum des Hommes and HtCR from Ivory Coast, CR Coalition, Cambodia. A special welcome for every child, including the child-led organizations and groups that are joining us today. We also want to thank the Swedish government's support to the Save the Children Civil Society Strengthening Program for making possible for so many organizations, including children's groups, to work together on child's rights and the environment since 2022. And of course, for supporting the simultaneous interpretation for this webinar. The environment, including the climate crisis, is a children's rights crisis. The climate change emergency, the fast collapse in biodiversity, and pervasive pollution put at risk at numerous children's rights, including their right to a healthy environment, and challenges the implementation of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, including its General Comment 26, as well as many other UN and regional human rights commitments. Children have the right to be heard in decision-making processes that affect their lives, families, and communities, and they've clearly demonstrated their interest and capacity to contribute to solutions to improve their environment. However, despite their crucial role as stakeholders, children and young people are often underrepresented in discussions about environmental degradation, including climate change, and despite new commitments and resolutions being made, children continue calling for a system change and for stronger state accountability to go beyond words and put actual commitments into action. Furthermore, while, of course, civil society and children have increasingly been integrating child rights in the environment, considering in their complementary reports and stakeholder submissions to the UN human rights monitoring process, this is not done consistently. This session will draw inspiration from the experiences of girls, boys, and CSO representatives from Albania and from countries involved in the CEDAW-funded Save the Children's Civil Society program, with the aim to encouraging discussions and exchanges of good practices, challenges, tips, and tricks about engaging the UN human rights mechanism on environmental issues. It will also be the occasion to launch a case study from Albania on how children have prepared and submitted an alternative report on the environment to the UNCRC. Our aim is that through this peer exchange, we will all be inspired to incorporate environment-inducing climate change issues into our complementary reports, the UN human rights monitoring and reporting processes. We also hope to get more clarity on how the new UNCRC General Comment 26 on Child's Rights and the Environment that was launched in September 2023 can help us advance the state's accountability for children's right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. So let me get you more familiar with the agenda today. We will first ask you to connect to menti.com to answer some questions to know who is with us today. We will then hear from Child's Rights Connect and UPR Info about the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child reporting and monitoring process about the Universal Periodic Review process of the United Nations Human Rights Council. I kindly ask all speakers to put videos on so we can see who you are. Then I will ask the UNCRC UN Committee on the Rights of Child member, Velina Todorova, to say a few words about how the committee works with children and how it contributes to advancing children's right to a healthy environment. Then we will hear a message from the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Climate Change, Ms. Elisa Morguera, because her mandate is also very relevant to children's rights. After that, we will get to the children. We will listen Ayla, Vesa, Nicola from childhood groups in Albania and from Medlira from Save the Children Albania about their experiences reporting on the CR and the environment, UNCRC, and the UPR processes and about the case study they developed. We will then open the floor for you, for all the participants, to ask questions and share your own experiences and advice. Finally, we will close with 2 questions on the Mentimeter to know from you if and how this session has been useful to you. And of course, we have the closing remarks. I will now ask Nicoleta to take the floor from UPR Info to guide us for the Mentimeter questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leo, and good morning to everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today. I will now share my screen so that we can have an interaction session to know who is in the room with us today. How to interact? Well, you have several ways. The first one is you can scan the QR code with the camera of your phone, and this will bring you directly to the Mentimeter presentation. If you don't have a camera, no worries. You can go on www.menti.com and include the code that you see on the screen, 6660866. So I will repeat it because it's a long number. So the code to enter on the website www.menti.com is 6660866. And then we also have a direct link that you can find in the chat box. So if you click on that link, you will see the screen with the Mentimeter. But let's start. Our first question, and we would like to know from which country you are joining us. We know that we have many children and adults that have been that are connected this morning with us in different countries. So we would like to have an idea from where you are connected. I can see that we have many from Albania, Cambodia, we have Sweden, Palestine, France also, and that's really a nice variety. Thank you so much for connecting from so many different countries. I would like to also invite those that did not manage to connect on Mentimeter, that if you wish, you can write on the chat box and you can type your answers in the chat. That's amazing. I see we have also from Palestine, from UK, from Zambia, Uruguay as well. That's really great to hear that you are connected from so many countries. But let's go to the next question. The next question is, we wanted to know how you are feeling today. So just to give us your feedback, if you're feeling good, if you, what is your feeling today? A bit sleepy, yes, we understand. For some can be very, very early in the morning. I just remember the code for those that wants to still interact with Mentimeter and did not get the chance to scan the QR code. You can go on the website www.menti.com and insert the code 6660866. In the meantime, I see that many of you are very excited to be here today with us. We are also very excited to hear from children today. Some are sleepy but curious, so that's a very good. Hopeful. Okay, we are also hopeful to learn. And the people from Francophone countries also are very participating and happy to follow today. Well, I see that there is a lot of enthusiasm among all of you. That's great. That's a good way to start our session. Now let's go to the next question. We would like to hear from you if you have ever used any human rights protection mechanism. This can be, for example, the Committee for Children's Rights, the Universal Periodic Review, but it can be also other regional mechanisms. So any type of engagement with a human rights mechanism. You can, as I said before, if you wish, you can interact directly on the Mentimeter platform. If not, you can also write your answer in the chat and we will read it as well. So let's see the results. I see that many of you, there is a majority of you that have already some type of engagement with human rights protection mechanism. So that's great to hear because we would be willing to hear from you, your experience and your feedback from your work. I have another question. I wanted to know whether have you been involved in any type of environmental activism? So you have a bit of time to reply to this question. Again, you can both use the Mentimeter or the chat box. We will be reading your messages. So I see from the first questions that there is also here a majority of participants that have already been involved in environmental activism. That's great to hear. And also we will be happy to hear from your experience. So happy to see that so many of you have already had engagement in environmental activism.
This is a great and engaging session. We need to also move on to the rest, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Nicoleta, for this very engaging session. Of course, it's always amazing to hear the input of everybody that is actually here and all the participants. So now I will ask Leira and Salvador from Child's Rights Connect to put their cameras on and tell us about the UNCRC monitoring and reporting process and how can children engage their children's rights and on the environment.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Salvador. I represent Child Rights Connect, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the UNCRC committee. So let's get into it. What is the UNCRC committee? The Committee on the Rights of the Child is a United Nations body tasked with monitoring how states fulfill their human rights obligations towards children and adolescents. Under the Convention on the Rights of the Child, a child is defined as any human being under the age of 18, unless the applicable laws set the age of majority earlier. These obligations are outlined in the Convention and its 2 optional protocols. The committee monitors this progress through a reporting cycle, and during each reporting cycle, states submit written information to the committee on children's rights in their respective countries. This information is included in the state report, they call the state report. The committee examines these reports as well as the additional information it receives, discusses the information with the national government during a meeting called a session, and makes recommendations or concluding observations to help states improve the situation on children's rights. Next slide, please. So who is the committee? The committee is composed of 18 independent experts on children's rights from 18 different countries. They're elected for 4 years and can be re-elected. You can find who the members of this committee are and what their expertise is on the committee's website. The committee's country sessions with states are public and broadcast. Next slide, please. So who can participate in this reporting cycle? Basically, any independent child's rights advocate working at a national, regional, or international level. So this includes UN agencies, NGOs, coalitions, national human rights institutions, ombudspersons, individual experts, academics, researchers, and children themselves. Children are actively encouraged to participate throughout the entire process, and they can do this in many ways. They can prepare submissions like written reports, drawings, songs, videos, either on their own or with support from different NGOs. They can request a private meeting with a committee during the pre-sessional session. They can also present their ideas during the pre-session, answering questions and sharing their perspectives. And finally, they can attend or follow the committee's country review sessions to stay involved. Now I'll be letting my colleague, Lady, take over to explain about the environment and how it can be integrated into this mechanism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Salvador. So now, why is the General Comment 26 important? On 2023, the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child published their General Comment 26 dedicated to child rights and the environment. So this General Comment is the first time that a treaty body recognizes the right of the child to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. It describes how environmental degradation and climate change affects the fulfillment of child rights. It reinterprets the articles of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child so that states include environmental consideration in its implementation. It is the main benchmark for states' action and inactions on child rights and climate change environmental degradation. Next slide, please. How can you use the GC26? You can use it as an accountability tool. Of course, you can also integrate the guidance in your work as a litigator, as an academic researcher, as a civil society in your programs, advocacy and campaigning at the national, regional, and international levels, as a civil servant in national legislation, policies, and programs. Next slide, please. So the state reporting cycle to the CRC committee. States that have ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child report to the CRC committee every 5 years. Since the adoption by the committee of the General Comment 26, states must report on children's rights and environment. A new cluster on this theme has been created to report on the topic. Civil society and children included can submit information to the committee through thematic reports dedicated to this topic, for instance, or through comprehensive reports, information on all aspects of the UNCRC with a section on children's rights and the environment. And finally, there is a publication to help you report on this topic that will be posted on the chat. Thank you for your attention, and I will give the floor back to Leo.
Thank you. Thank you, Leila and Salvador. I will now give the floor back to Nicoleta from UPR Info to explain us about the Universal Periodic Review process and how children can engage with it to advance children's right to a healthy environment.
Thank you very much, Leo. So yes, now let's talk about a bit the Universal Periodic Review, also known as the UPR. The UPR is a process of the United Nations used to improve everybody's human rights. And this, of course, includes the rights of children and climate action. In the UPR, all the human rights situations of everyone living in every country in the world is reviewed. If we look at the acronym, U stands for universal. So all the states are reviewed under this mechanism and on a whole wide range of human rights. R stands for review because states make a review of other states. And P stands for periodic because this review happens every 4 years and a half. In the next slide, we'll see who is participating, who is involved in the UPR. The main actors of our course states. The state is responsible for the human rights situation, and the state that is examined is called state under review. The other states that review the human rights situation make suggestions and are called recommending states. But it's very important, as we will see in the next slide, the participation of civil society. Next slide, please. Civil society organizations include NGOs that are able to support citizens at the national or community level to speak about issues that concern them. Among the civil society, beyond the NGOs, we also have national human rights institutions that have the responsibility to protect and promote human rights in your country. And among the different types of civil society organizations, we also have and engage in the UPR children's groups and organizations, which are a big part of the civil society. In the next slide, please, we will see how it works. So every 4 years and a half, each state tells about the human rights situation in their own country. During this review that is happening in Geneva, another group of states examines the state under review, providing input that it gets also from civil society. The recommending states, in fact, present recommendations to improve the human rights in the countries under review. The recommendations are ideas from states that suggest the ways to improve human rights. In the next slide, please. So the UPR takes place, we can define it in 3 phases. Before the review, where we get the information to prepare on how the state has been implementing the human rights commitments and obligations. The second stage is the review itself, where the information received on the state under review is examined by the recommending states that make recommendations. And the third phase is after the review. The received recommendations are put in practice. Next slides. How can you participate? Children and adults can participate by reporting and raising awareness on the human rights situation in their country and making recommendations to improve human rights situations. You can also participate by monitoring how the state has been changing the situation in your country. Also, you can participate and organize to events that contribute to improving human rights. Next slide, please.
Nicoleta, sorry, we're in our last minute. So if you could,
okay.
Thank
Wrap
you.
up. Yes, so this is an example of how children in Australia have raised awareness on the climate issues in their country. They set up meetings with diplomats representing recommending states. And these recommendations were picked up during the review of Australia. And with this good practice, I would like to conclude my session on the UPR. And on the chat, you will see a link with a guide that provides you with information on how you can engage on the Universal Periodic Review. Thank you. Over to you, Leo.
Thank you, Nicoleta. We now have a much clearer understanding about what the UNCRC and the UPR processes are and how relevant they are to children and to their right to a healthy environment. Before I move to the next speaker, I want to encourage all participants, if they have questions, to put them in the chat box and colleagues will help responding to them. Please feel free to engage as much as you can. I will now ask Ms. Velina Todorova, member of the UN Committee of the Rights of the Child, to put her camera on and tell us how the committee works with children and how it contributes to advancing children's rights in the context of environmental degradation and climate change.
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for inviting the committee, for having me. Do you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes, good. And thank you for your great presentations so far about the work of the committee and the other mechanisms, particularly UPR. Well, you've said so many things, so I'm wondering what new can I add to all the information you provided to the participants. But yes, how the committee works with children in this global climate and environmental crisis. So first of all, of course, the major instrument, the major promise that came from the committee to do all children in the globe is GC26. That general comment was a response, you know, but let me say this again, a response to the enormous wave of child activism worldwide. You know that more than 17,000 children participated in the drafting process in 2 stages. Various means for participation were used, and now when the GC is ready, adopted, known to states parties, I think that all these children, you, the participants here, their children's organizations or organizations that are working for children, are the global allies that will push the states for the implementation of the convention and the new child rights that was somehow formulated by the committee in the GC26. Should I say? Why the participation of children is important? It's vital because of many reasons. I don't have time to explain all the reasons, and you all now know the reasons. But let me say, it is not. It's obvious that it won't be easy for us, child rights activists and elderly people, and for you, children yourself, to achieve the goal to save the planet, to make all the actions necessary to save the environment and keep the climate changes in the levels that the science actually tells us. So children, we all know that you are underrepresented, you are least involved, hurt, and that is why we should use all means to push the states to focus their attention on children, because children are really most worst affected by the climate change and environmental degradation. Children will suffer longer than adults. You will live longer in this environment. So let us try really to be active and to try to not to leave governments in peace. You explained how the committee works with children. Actually, the committee is really happy, welcomes any form of participation of children in the monitoring process of the convention. It was well explained, but we welcome any participation of children's groups, individual children, or organizations working with or for children in the process of monitoring the concrete state. For example, we usually hear from children in person, but video calls, written submissions, for example, reviewing Albania, we had a very good report from children with very clear messages about the environmental issues in Albania, and we use that report, how the committee makes use of the information provided by children. We use it in various ways. First of all, let me say that depending on the procedure, but the committee tries to put questions in advance to the governments that are to come to the committee for the review, for the dialogue. These are list of issues prior to reporting, or list of issues. It depends on the concrete state in its in the procedure. So in this list of issues, we try to ask concrete questions about the environment and climate related issues in the country. Then we get the submissions from the very valuable submissions. We very much value the submissions of civil society, NGOs, children themselves, as I already said. Of course, governmental report is important, but then we use all the information, particularly coming from children, in the dialogues when we sit together with the government representatives and discuss the issues of the country. So very valuable are the information provided by children. And then the committee should draft concluding observations and recommendations. And there we put recommendations. With the example of Albania, we used a lot the information, the report provided by children, and some of the recommendations recommendations reflect these issues and recommendations that came from children. The new cluster, it was explained before. The new cluster means that we put specific space, we devoted specific space in the dialogue with the government, oral exchange, but also in the recommendations that will guide the government during the next cycle, how to address and how to implement
Ms. Velina,
yeah.
thank you, and okay, feel free to conclude at any time.
Well, just one more comment. Children could use also another mechanism to engage with the governments, to engage the accountability of governments for not doing their best for the climate and environment. This is the third optional protocol on individual communications. Only 53 countries, however, have ratified this protocol, but we have important jurisprudence, important case. So this is another avenue, another option that you could use after exhausting all the domestic remedies to hold the government accountable. Thank you very much, and congratulations for this excellent webinar. Back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Velina. In the United Nations, there are also special mandates that are very relevant to children's rights in the context of climate change and environmental degradation. One of them is the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Climate Change, Ms. Elisa Morguera. She unfortunately could not join us in person, but sent us a video to tell us about her role and how it relates to children.
Hi, my name is Elisa. Elisa Morguera. I'm the UN Special Rapporteur on Climate Change and Human Rights. I'm Italian and I live in Scotland. My job as UN Special Rapporteur, which I took up on 1st of May of this year, is to provide independent advice, including independent from the United Nations, even if I am supported by the UN Human Rights Office, and clarify what states, public authorities must do to protect our human rights, including children's rights, in the context of climate change. My job is also to clarify what business, what private companies need to do to ensure that they also play a part in respecting our human rights in the context of climate change. So my job also entails listening to many voices, including children's voices, learning from the research and the evidence that many states, but also researchers, civil society organizations, and others are conducting to understand how human rights are negatively impacted by climate change, but also how sometimes our human rights are impacted by certain climate change solutions, so that I can then tell states, public authorities, and also business what to do or not to do to prevent further negative impacts on our human rights, and also to choose to prioritize different solutions to climate change that can best protect our human rights. And in that context, it's really important to listen to the voices of those human rights holders who are most affected by climate change, because we don't all experience the negative impacts of climate change equally. And in fact, children, but also women and girls, persons with disabilities, indigenous peoples, persons with albinism, communities living in small island states, they're all being much more negatively impacted than other people. And therefore, we really need to make sure we listen to them as a priority and make sure we understand what are the reasons why their human rights are more affected, and we listen to their ideas about how states and business can do better to protect their human rights. Because at the end of the day, it's really in their experiences and understanding their knowledge of climate change as they have experienced it that we have the best understanding of what we need to do to protect human rights in the context of climate change, and in fact take more effective, more meaningful climate action altogether. So my job is really also to organize spaces and support, give also recommendations to the United Nations in different parts and to governments to create spaces for all of them to listen and learn from children and other human rights holders, and really make sure we listen and we learn from your experiences and your ideas and have a dialogue about what action is needed and most needed to protect children's rights to a healthy environment and all the other human rights that are negatively impacted by climate change. As you can see also from my pin, one of the recommendations that I'm working on together with many other members of civil society is to make sure the climate COPs, those UN climate summits, are spaces where children can be safe and can be genuinely listened to. We have a lot of work to be done there, but it's important to keep in mind that the climate COP is not the only place where we need to listen and learn from children and take better decisions on climate change. There are many other international processes that have to do with the protection of the ocean, with the protection of nature, with plastic pollution, where important decisions have very much to do with climate change, and therefore we need to make sure that everyone's human rights and children's human rights are protected and children's voices are heard to that respect. So I hope that this is helpful. My virtual door is always open, and I'm looking forward to hearing how I can myself be in a constant dialogue with children around the world and see how my role and my independent advice can help in the most effective way possible to ensure the protection of children's rights in the context of climate change.
A big virtual thanks to Elisa Morguera, who unfortunately could not join us here today. And also, just a reminder, if anyone has questions to Melina or Elisa, please feel free to engage and put them in the chat box below. I will now move over to Edlira from Save the Children Albania to tell us what and how Save the Children has worked with Voice 16 Plus in Albania on children's rights and on the environment. Edlira, the floor is to you.
Thank you, Leo. My name is Edlira Njeci. I'm working as a senior child protection and gender specialist at Save the Children Albania. So, Save the Children in Albania indeed has been instrumental in empowering children to advocate for their rights through the child-led groups known as Voice 16 Plus. These groups, established in 2000, began by addressing school-related issues and have since grown into a dynamic network engaging in national decision-making processes and representing Albanian children even internationally. Operating in 4 regions, Albania, Elbasan, Dibër, Durrës, and Burrel, Voice 60 Plus consists of 50 to 60 children per group, representing indeed a broader network of approximately 2,500 child volunteers. A recent focus of Voice 16 Plus has been on the rights of the children to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, and in response to the absence of environmental and climate issues in Albania's state report to both CRC and UPR processes in 2019, Voice 16 Plus, with the support from Save the Children Albania, started to develop a child-led complementary report, and during 2021-2022, they were involved in the CRC reporting process. The report highlighted the impact of environmental challenges on children's health and well-being and proposed indeed actionable recommendations. And this work reached a significant milestone in September 2022 when 2 child representatives, 1 boy and 1 girl, presented the findings and recommendations of the report during the CRC committee pre-session in Geneva. And indeed, this marked the first time Albanian children presented a report specifically addressing environmental rights, amplifying their voices in that way in the global platform and influencing the committee's recommendation. The entire process of developing the child-led report is documented in a case study which is being launched today. This case study details the rationale and methodology behind the report, focusing on climate change and the environment. It also outlines the steps taken by Voice 16 Plus to participate in the UNCRC pre-session, as well as all the follow-up actions related to CRC committee adopted recommendations. The case study indeed is designed as a resource for child rights practitioners, either the one who are working with civil society organizations at all levels, at local, national, regional, and international level, who are supporting or plan to support children in developing child-led reports on climate change and environment, but as well as to groups of children who are interested in CRC reporting and other UN and regional reporting opportunities, with particular focus on the right to a healthy environment, of course, including climate change. And the case study also explored the application of the UNCRC General Common Number 26 in reporting processes, and it also provides indeed insights how Voice 16 Plus prepared and submitted a child-led report in April 2024 as part of the UPR process as well. The case study is developed based on the wide consultation with children, with civil society organization, and definitely this process serves as a model for supporting children in taking an active role in advocacy and reporting, offering valuable lessons for adaptation in various contexts and monitoring frameworks. And Through these initiatives, I do believe that Save the Children's continues to champion children's rights and amplify their voices in shaping a better future for children. Now, let me introduce the representatives of children who have been part of this incredible journey. I'm delighted to present to you Ayla, Vesa, and Nicola, three children from Voice 16 Plus who have played a crucial role in this process. They will share with you today more details about their journey they have been through and their experiences along the way. Thank you. Children, the floor is for you. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your word. My name is Ayla. I'm 15 years old and I am part of the Voice 16 Plus group. I am very happy to share with you my experience regarding the CRC process. During the period when we children wrote the CRC report, Save the Children was implementing the project Children Stand Up. This project focused on enhancing children's awareness about climate and environmental issues and what actions they can take to address these issues. The project Children Stand Up conducted child-led research in air pollution and its impact on children's health in schools and in 4 municipalities. The data collected by this study served as evidence for children to write the CRC alternative report. During the preparation sessions, we children were generally informed about the CRC reporting cycle processes and the related timeframe, including for follow-up work. A series of consultations were held with us by the project team. Consultations with children were carried out initially through focus groups interviews, conducted in a one-day workshop. The selected 35 boys and girls of CLGs participated in the workshop. Initially, children were informed about the main findings of the survey report on air pollution and its impact on children's health. Children, divided into 7 working groups, selected the most critical environmental and climate change issues that have considerable impact on children's life. Each of the groups analyzed all the addressed issues, in total 12, and identified the most critical ones, 5 out of 12. Later, each of the groups analyzed in detail each of the identified issues and provided arguments regarding the challenges as well as the most pertinent solutions. The project team submitted the report on behalf of the children group to the CRC on September 22. 2 representatives from CLGs represented the report, including findings and recommendations to the hearing session of Albania to CRC committee in Geneva. After the hearing session, the 2 children who had represented Albania during the CRC report sessions were invited to share their experience with their respective CLGs. A key result is that the concluding observation received by the government of Albania included recommendations on climate and environment, including issues raised in the children's report. For us as children, the most significant achievement of the process was raised awareness of children regarding the climate change and environment and our serious engagement in submission of the key recommendations to the Albanian government for implementation. As a result, CLGs have also decided to dedicate their submission to the UPR reporting process on climate and environment. The UPR child-led submission from Voice 16 Plus was submitted in April 24. Vesa and Nicola will share their experience regarding the participation to UPR mechanisms. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vesa. Key outcome was that the concluding observations given to the Albanian government included recommendations of climate and the environment, addressing concerns raised in the children's report. For the children involved, the most notable achievement of the process was their increased awareness of climate change and the environment, as well as their active involvement in submitting important recommendations to the Albanian government for action. As a result, the child-led groups, or CLGs, chose to focus their submission for the UPR reporting process on climate and the environment. The UPR child-led submission from Voice 16 Plus, Eco Clubs, and the Children's Government was submitted in April 2024. The report was presented on behalf of the child-led groups, Voice 16 Plus, Children's Governance, and children's representatives of Eco Clubs.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicola. I am 16 years old. I am part of the Children Governance and the children's representatives from Eco Clubs. These groups were established with the support of Save the Children in Albania and have been strengthened over the years. Together, they advocate for the children's right to a safe, balanced, and healthy environment, among other issues impacting children's rights. Consultations were held by the three groups with their partners, networks, and members during the development of the submission, and they also participated in the consultations of the Albanian Commission of Human Rights. The submission focuses on addressing key concerns related to the realization of children's rights in the context of climate change and environmental disasters. The issues highlighted stem from in-depth discussions among children's groups, who are deeply concerned about the impact of the environment and climate on their lives. Through a majority vote, these groups identified 5 critical issues, which are further elaborated below. It is important to note that both of us took part in the UPR pre-session organized by the UPR Info in August 2024, where we made a significant impact. Our involvement highlighted how the advocacy work initiated through the CRC was effectively applied in UPR reporting and advocacy efforts.
On our 1 week in Geneva, we conducted some bilateral meetings with diplomatic representatives and presented a report where the most important issues were, the first one was waste collection. Municipal solid waste generation in Albania is predicted to grow. Approximately 70% of the population is currently served by waste collection services. This is mainly so in urban areas. The legal framework for waste management is only partially aligned, and this directly affects the realization of the right of the child to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standards of health, according to Article 24. 2 recommendations were prepare waste management plans for 12 districts, including tax collection systems, and intensify promotional actions for waste reduction. The second issue was recreational development and entertainment facilities, with spaces for facilities and school infrastructure. The 2019 Albania earthquake damaged 321 educational institutions across 11 municipalities. By October 2023, 44 out of 63 planned facilities were built. In 2023, improvements in 16 schools benefited around 6,000 students, 400 teachers, and 500,000 community members. Key challenge remains enhancing local government's financial capacity to uphold the right to education under Articles 28 and 29. A recommendation was to increase municipal funds for infrastructure investments into schools. The 3 other issues are going to be presented by Nicola.
The third issue was carbon dioxide. In 2022, Albania's CO2 emissions were approximately 1.5 metric tons per capita. Additionally, the total CO2 emissions for the country in 2020 were 4,383.20 tons, representing a 20.22% decline from the previous year. And of course, there are a lot of problems regarding this because there was the lack of monitoring systems for the air. And there are only 7 of them, which don't work all year round. There's also a problem that we need to align with the EU legislation on industrial pollution and risk management. And some of the key challenges were the corruption cases for the construction of Station 4 in the incinerator in Elbasan and in Fier. And we report that we developed monitoring instruments of air quality in line with EU requirements in every municipality of Albania. We developed planning for air quality management at the local government. The issue 4 is the school curriculum, and supported by Save the Children, the education kit climate change learning material for 9 to 11-year-old children in 3 parts, and for 12 to 14 years old were prepared. And this is a big step forward in adapting the school curricula to climate change, since Albania is a country that is really impacted by it. Of course, substantial investment and efforts are needed for climate adaptation, as Albania is highly exposed to the consequences of climate change. Sea level rise, as well as soil droughts, are expected to substantially affect the society, public infrastructure, and economic activities. Some recommendations are to persist to further invest to harmonize school curricula and extracurricular activities centered at environment protection and care alongside the process of quality learning. to maintain strong cooperation of school with parents as well as business sector to support the organization of activities aimed at the promotion of environmental education, which at the same time will impact on citizens awareness raising, which brings us to the fifth issue, citizens awareness raising. Of course, the citizens need to know that not only are they are impacted by the climate change, but they also need to know how to help to impact, reduce the effect that it has on our country. And of course, there has been progress towards it. Of course, for example, the Youth Manifesto, which outlines key demands from youth affected by air pollution. A total of 279 youth is capacitated in air quality, positioning itself as watchdogs for policy monitoring in 9 municipalities. But there have also been challenges. There has been no progress in the implementation of a roadmap on an enabling environment for civil society, which remains very dependent on donor support. And we recommend that we pursue the thorough alignment at global, regional, and national levels of the education, environment, climate, sustainable economy, and other relevant development agendas. We enhance the networking in different stakeholder groups to ensure that efforts are mutually supportive and complementary, and seek the structural mainstreaming of education, sustainable development. Thank you very much.
During our stay in Geneva, we had bilateral meetings with the diplomatic representatives of Costa Rica, Belgium, and the Aarhus Convention in Geneva. The meetings were pleasant, with both parties participating fully in the conversation. Even though most of the diplomatic representatives didn't have any previous experience when talking to children, they tried their best to adapt to us and make us feel included during the process. The end of the week was finalized with the presentation of the report during Albania's session.
We also had other meetings with representatives of Ireland, Switzerland, and also of the HtCR in Geneva, where we talked about, where we explained them the difficulties and the problems that we had in Albania, with hopes that they would recommend them in the UPR sessions. We also had a presentation of the report at the meeting organized by the EU delegation in Geneva, in which I took part myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Please feel free to conclude whenever you want. Okay, unless you're actually done. So it's always great to hear from children about their advocacy work, and especially coming from such prepared children who have gone so far to raise their voice. Of course, you can also find the study link in the chat box below later for any of the participants who would like to look into it. And now I will give the mic to Laura Bado. Thank you.
Hi everyone, bonjour tout le monde. I will start an interactive session, and this session is for you to ask questions and to even share some experience briefly with everybody. Now you've heard so many colleagues and the children from Albania and the colleagues from Albania, so adults and children in the call, please feel free to raise your hand if you want to say something or ask a question. And also, if you feel more comfortable, put it in the chat box in your language. So it's okay to put in French, in Spanish, in Arabic. Our limited in English, we are a bit more limited in our capacity for other languages. But if you can't otherwise, we can answer the question after the call. So when I give you the floor, I'm taking note of people raising their hands. And when you when I give you the floor, please present yourself first, who you are, which country, organization. And please be brief because we really want to take as many inputs as possible during this call. So over to Sara Kambu. Sara, I give you the floor. And if you need to speak in French, just all of you be ready to switch language because we have interpretation. So you see the globe down the screen. You just click on it and you choose the language you want to hear what Sarah is saying in. Okay, Sarah?
Sarah, you have the floor. Can you please turn on your camera? Sarah, you have the floor. And just after. Yes, good morning. Hi, Sarah. Yes, we are from the coalition of the Children Coalition of San Pedro. We have led an research on the children in our community. We are sorry, but the sound comes and goes. We have conducted a research on the environmental damage in San Pedro, and so we have asked some questions to our friends. We've seen difficult situations. There are some children living near to waste sites. We've also asked the children about the air contamination. The interpreter is sorry, but the sound comes and goes, and it's not possible to get to translate. We've also participated in the International Children Day. Sarah, we are not seeing you well. Can you just move your camera? Okay, very good, thank you. You have the floor. Do you have a question for someone that from one of our guests? Do you have a question to one of our guests? You have the floor. Please continue what you were saying. We just want to say that the consultation or the research started in August until September, and we asked more than 500 children. We have conducted a consultation with more than 500 children. And ask about the environmental declaration. We ask first the authorization of the neighborhood chief. We presented our work on November 20th, the 20th. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. And I don't know what's your name. Actually, you have some connection issues. So I just wanted to add that, well, thank you very much for sharing what you said regarding the research on environment and children in San Pedro. You said that you've discovered a lot of interesting things, seen that a lot of waste, there were a lot of waste, and well, thank you very much for everything you've said. If you want, you can also use the chat box in order to include your comments on the report. And now I'm going to switch language.
I would like to give the floor to Lei from CRC Children's Coalition Cambodia. Lei, please, the floor is yours. If you can please be just brief so that we can also give the floor to other participants. Thank you so much. Over to you, Lei. Please show yourself with the camera if possible. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, and also good afternoon and good morning from Cambodia. I am Lai, the HtCR Director from Child Rights Coalition Cambodia, a membership-based organization with the team member at today. I would like also to share how CSC Cambodia use General Document 26 into our Universal Public Review report. First of all, it is important to say that children environment rights were prioritized in our UPI advocacy, and thanks to children to keep this priority on our Universal Public Review advocacy agenda. Due to lack of resources, Cambodia did not manage to support child reporting, but we have made sure to consult children in all key steps and also decisions such as what should be the coalition advocacy priority. Members of Child Youth Lead Network coordinated by CSC Cambodia who are engaged with the development, launch, and also translation of the child-friendly version of General Document 26 into the local language can increase knowledge and confidence. They embrace that stronger child responsive climate action in critical issues for children in Cambodia. CSC Cambodia used General Document 26 in various ways. Most important, like reference to General Document 26 give authority to universal public review recommendation and have formulated specific right-based recommendation. This strength advocacy result from the universal public review. General Document 26 have us in mobilizing members and raising awareness about children environmental rights. And it would be very important to continue with this, have developed monitoring tool based on General Document 26, for example. With coordination from the Secretariat and utilizing existing tools such as this tool, the Child and Youth Lead Network continue to integrate, they expand the General Document 26 concept into their community campaign, working collaboratively with their peer and local authority. CSC Cambodia is committed to continue supporting children climate action by fundraising, networking, and using opportunities like this webinar today to share and learn from other peers. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lei. Thank you for sharing for joining us today. I'm sure colleagues may have questions to you. Please put them in the chat box of Ousmane. Ousmane, vous êtes du Mali. Je vous prie de vous présenter, mettre votre caméra et de parler. Merci.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning. Good morning, Usman. You have the floor. Yes, just a second. I'm trying to turn on my camera. Can you hear me well? Well, I won't use my camera in order to have a better sound. So, can you hear me? Yes, we can. So, in Mali, we also conducted a study regarding the children one, and we saw that in Mali, children are impacted by the climate change and the crisis situation. After that study, we asked the state to take into account the children's opinion in our different policies and laws. And this allowed us to have a better advocacy action and said that it was really important to integrate children's voice in the different decisions. We also thanks the nomination of a young girl. With her, we're going to fight for the participation of children in all the decisions and policies adopted. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Usman, for sharing the work you're doing in your country. And now,
Je pense que Peter, you will speak in English, right? Please welcome to share your thoughts and questions, eventual questions. Peter. If you like, show your screen, put on the video. Thank you, Peter. Are you, yeah? Peter, you're muted. I think we lost Peter. Maybe in the meantime, is there somebody else who would like to raise their hand and share orally?
Is there someone else that would like to share his experience or ask a question? You can raise your hand. I don't know who's talking. Yes, I'm Ange. Yes, you have the floor. You are the colleagues from Ivory Coast. Yes, I'm Augustin. Okay, Augustin. Augustin, can you please speak louder, Augustin? You can speak. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. I'm going to be brief. So I'm going to talk about the youth forum that provided a report on climate change and youth. And so this year we're going to participate in the universal review process. And so we've submitted some recommendations. The interpreter excuses herself, but the sounds come and goes. And so we've submitted some recommendation in the youth report. The interpreter apologizes, but it's impossible to do a proper translation because of the quality of the sound. Well, thank you very much. Dear colleagues, it's important to say that even if you submitted your recommendations, there's also the experience regarding how to submit reports and recommendations. I think someone else wanted to take the floor. So is it possible? Someone else from the Ivory Coast? Kenyel? Kenyel, you have the floor. And then just after you, I'll give the floor to, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't see that person anymore. So you have the floor, Marc Eliel. Yeah, good morning to all of you. I'm Marc Eliel Denis. I'm president of the organization and children organization and association and its network in the Ivory Coast. Since 2022, we are submitting and elaborating some reports, and we have integrated the environmental issues. We've sent in 2022 a report, and we have done a monitoring of our rights in Côte d'Ivoire, in the Ivory Coast, and we focused on the environmental and education issues. The idea is to allow children to participate more in environmental issues. And regarding the UPR, we have also sent a children's report, and we've integrated all the environmental issues in that report. We And it's important to take into account the children's ideas regarding the protection of the environment. That's what I wanted to say.
If I could just get some help to mute the persons who have not muted and are not talking, sorry.
Well, thank you very much, Marc-Eliel, for what you said about the Young Association of Young Workers and Children in Ivory Coast. I've also seen something about the Albanian children. I don't know if you have met with them. I've seen someone else raising her hand. Miliana?
Hi. Hi. Yes, I'm trying to. I hope you can hear me. I don't know why can't you see me. I turn on my camera. Laura, I'm not so sure how much time is there, but I wanted to ask first of all. Hi. Yes, so I wanted to ask the group from Albania. It was very interesting to listen to their experience. So if they have any plans, what would be their next steps for the whole group? And I saw there is another question for the group, and this is what would be the recommendations for civil society? How can we improve the support that we are providing to them? I have something else to share, but I can do this through the chat better. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Smiliana, for your question. Donc, did you hear the question? If you would like to answer, Smiliana.
So Laura, if can I?
Or Ira, yes, please come in.
Yeah, definitely. As you will see even in the case study, a very important phase is the follow-up actions. So children who have been involved in the child-led reports and have kind of participated in this pre-session, they definitely need to follow up then on the next steps. And among the next steps is the first one is screening of the observations in the concluding observation report for Albania to detect the children's recommendations that were provided in the Albanian government. And indeed, we are happy to say that there are several recommendations already reflected now in the report. And after that, there are planned several meetings with children to introduce the concluding observation report for Albania. And together with children, we have already decided now to select the most critical recommendations that we are going to follow up. And indeed, there are two recommendations that we would like to be focused on and continue all our advocacy work to push forward the Albanian government to implement these recommendations. And children have already designed a plan of actions on how to address these two recommendations. And there are several activities now as part of their advocacy plan, which have already have started to be implemented. So these days of 20th, in the frame of 20th of November has been quite intensive indeed, because there have been several advocacy meetings organized at the local national levels, where the issue is highlighted on the environmental related issues which are in line with these recommendations have been raised again, and we children are trying to kind of make related government authorities accountable on how to in regard to the implementation of these recommendations. So the work for the follow-up work has already started, and it definitely will continue throughout the next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elvira. There was a question as well, maybe to the children about, how adults can better accompany them in this work. If anybody wanted to intervene.
You said that that was a question for the children. So can I? Okay. I think something that will be very important that adults should do to adapt children is kind of simplify the language that they use, because sometimes they use terms or acronyms that children are not very familiar with, which can be difficult for children to understand.
Okay, thank you so much, Bessa. I know that there are some people in the chat. I saw that some people could not raise their hand. I don't know, they cannot see this option on their screen. So please don't be discouraged. I think, please, if you can write in the chat box what you wanted to say, or the question you have, whatever you write, we share in the follow-up this call. And we will also translate everything into the various languages used in this call. We don't have time to answer, then we will also make sure to answer them and share them in the follow-up message. So you will get really answers to your questions. We will do our best. Leo, I think if you can help me just see if there's anybody else who has raised their hand or wanted to say something, or are we out of the time, just to make sure that I know from you an indication if we need to move forward or not.
We are almost at the time limit to move on to the next stage. So
and I see Peter. I'm sorry, Peter, you have joined, and I see that you're here back, but we will not be able to listen at this stage, unfortunately, due to technical problems you've had. We had to move on, but please also share in the chat box your question or whatever you wanted to share. And also I wanted to highlight, I also saw in the chat Alfred from Environment Africa in Zambia, and that you had Christopher and Victor with you. Also feel free to share in the chat box whatever you wanted to share or ask. I leave now to Leo to take us to the next step, and thank you so much for all your participation, everything you've shared.
Yeah, so
so go ahead.
Yeah, so based on what Laura said, it was very nice to hear this very engaging part of the session. Now we will move on to Nyati, who shall put up the Menti questions, check with you how the session has been. So Nyati, the floor is to you.
Thank you very much. It's still Nicoletta that will do that, so I will share my screen with you. And it's just to have a bit of feedback from this session that I think has been very insightful for all of you. We will use Mentimeter again. So you can or scan the QR code that you see on the screen. You can click on the link that has been shared on the chat box. And if all this doesn't work, you can go on Google and type www.menti.com and insert the code that you see on the screen, that is 44937519. I repeat, 44937519. And of course, as before, you can always write your answers on the chat box if you did not manage to connect on Mentimeter. So the first question that we would like to ask is to give us your comments on what you have learned today. You can give us one or two sentences on the things that you retain from this very insightful discussion. And I'd like just to advance my thanks to Ayla, Nicola, and Vesa for their great interventions, and also all of you for sharing all the experience that you had. So I will give you a couple of seconds to write your feedback on what you have learned today, like something that now you will keep as a recommendation for your future work. I just read a couple, so I see that many of you value the importance of the children participation for the protection of their rights, that climate change issues and the importance of children advocacy, how children engage in the different mechanisms. So that's very good. I also remind you that you can write in the chat box, so no worries. I see that some of you have been are writing in the chat. Some are using Mentimeter. And yes, we can say, as the last comment that I see on the screen, that children are active, that they are very engaged in participating in CRC reporting and UPR and in conducting research. And now I will go to the next question. We would like to ask you your level of understanding and knowledge of civil society and children reporting on children's rights to a healthy environment. So you can choose the different options. If your knowledge, you don't feel you yet have a knowledge, you just have a little bit. You feel that you have a medium knowledge, or after the session, you feel that your knowledge has improved, so it's good or very good. So you have these 5 options that you can choose. I will give you a couple of seconds to make your choice, and you can also write in the chat box. So I see that many of you are selecting good, so we're happy that this session, online session, has provided you with inputs and knowledge about children participation. As you have seen in the chat, Praise has been sharing with you links where you can find additional information on the tools that you have available on the CRC, on the UPR, on the general comment. So thank you very much for this. I leave the floor now to Leo again. Leo, please.
Thank you, Nicoleta. Thank you for all your contributions to this rich discussion on learning. We'll be sharing the recordings and all the material of the session, including the slides and experiences and questions and answers shared in the chat box after the webinar. I want to give a very special thanks to all of our amazing speakers today, especially Ayla, Nicola, and Vesa, but also to all the team from UPR Info, CR Connect, How to Child's Rights series, and Save the Children, including volunteers and interns that supported the preparation of the webinar behind the scenes. So thank you, Nyati, Praise, Lotte, Maya, Laura, Nicoleta, Leire, Salvador, Edlira, Eva, Does, Zafior, and many more other colleagues at Save the Children Albania. Please check out the case study from Albania on the child-led reporting to the UNCRC on CR and the environment, and the other resources on child rights and environment that you will find available on the How to Child's Rights series webpage. Please be also aware of the upcoming How to Child's Rights series peer exchange, consultations, and launch webinars, which will be on the following dates. The 28th of November, which will be the peer exchange and launch, How to Reduce Discrimination and Social Exclusion Using Child-Centered Social Accountability. On the 3rd and the 5th December, drop-in consultations in English and in French on draft introductory guidance to the UNCRC General Comment 26. And on 12th of December, launch and peer exchange on reporting on child rights and environment using the African Charter monitoring and reporting process. Also, just don't hesitate to get in touch to contribute to the How to Child Rights series. It is there for all of us to document our child's rights work, exchange, and learn from each other. So I want to give a very heartfelt thanks to everybody who has been part of this amazing session here. Thank you.
And thank you to Leo for moderating this session.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care. Merci à tous. Gracias.
Merci, au
شكرا.
revoir.
شكرا للجميع.
Thank you.